Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our committee of the whole meeting of the West Jordan City Council and staff for April 14th, 2026. We have all council members in attendance and several members of our city staff. Excited to get this going. Our first discussion topic is going to be item 2A. This is a discussion on future land uses at the rodeo arena site. I think for this, Kent Shelton and I are the presenters on this. I'm going to let Kent take over, but this is really the reason we have it in this place is because our next topic is going to be talking about the resident survey, and we're going to be talking about some of the questions we might want on that. So it felt good to put a discussion like this right before that to help us with any questions we might have. We also have Corbin here who can give us a little quick rundown before we get to the actual presentation.
Let me turn it over. Let's start with
Okay,
Kent
we'll
first.
start with
Yeah,
Kent.
I'll fill
All
in any holes.
Just a little history on this. I back in February, I took former Carmel, Indiana Mayor Jim Brainerd around our city, and part of that tour was this space around the rodeo grounds and behind the arts center. And he was excited to see all the undeveloped ground that was so close to our city center. And I said to him, hey, no, our city center is slated for east of Redwood Road, not out here. And he's like, oh, you gotta look at this holistically, my friend. And so he spoke to his friend who is a prominent city planner, Jeff Speck. That is, his name is a very small name, right? And Mr. Speck was back here in Utah recently to look at the progress of a community that he designed called Utah City. Utah City is in
I just went there today.
I was wondering what that was.
It's just like a daybreak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, did they change the name of Vineyard?
It's just
A
part
little
of
bigger scale.
Okay.
bigger still daybreak. Okay.
This way bigger.
Anyway, during our conversation, when Jeff Speck was in Utah, he requested a meeting with Corbin and Paul, and then they invited me to come along too. And he was very excited about the rodeo space as well, and suggested that we could move it. And I'll just say this, that Jim Brainerd and Jeff Speck are not emotionally attached to the tradition of having the rodeo where it currently sits. So they see it with different eyes than perhaps how we see it. Because I kept on, when Jim Brainerd first suggested moving the rodeo grounds to me, it was kind of off-putting. So I'm suspecting that you also might feel that way. But after listening to their excitement of, what they think, how we could make it better and higher use for that location instead of something that's just used a few times a year, we decided we might bring it back to city council. In speaking with Corbin and Paul, decided maybe we should bring this back to city council and ask what your thoughts might be. Having visited downtown Carmel, Indiana, I believe what they're envisioning could be something like high-density housing mixed with shopping, hotels, plaza, and additional facilities for the arts, while making the entire area much more walkable. So this is these are Jeff Speck's books. This is the one I'm currently reading called Suburban Nation. And this is his other book called Walkable City. So he's a sought after urban planner and designer. And it's really an honor to have him interested in our city. Just say that. So Mr. Lee?
So, I think it was two council meetings ago, I came to the council and said, okay, what do you want to include in this rodeo study? This arena study, and the number one takeaway I got from that conversation was, you can include and consider all things, but rodeo has to be a part of it. We're not getting rid of the rodeo. And in my mind, I assumed, okay, if we're not getting rid of the rodeo, it's staying here. How do we make the best out of it possible here at this site without moving sites? Because to move it involves land acquisition and other things and expensive. So we were all set. We were writing an RFP to look for a consulting team that was focused on sports arena maximization, sports arena utilization, with the assumption that the sports arena is the rodeo arena and it stays right here and covers all the things we talked about in our last meeting. And then 2 days later was when we had this meeting with Jeff Speck, who said, I'm gonna put words in his mouth, but he essentially said, rodeo is a great land use, but it's a low investment land use on your high investment part of land. You've got a lot of institutional assets here between the park, the rec center, the library, city hall, court buildings, and then this really low investment land use right next to it that doesn't get a lot of use and isn't high dollar investment per square foot. And he kind of said, if you want to do your downtown here, start it here where it's easier to develop. You already own the land, you're not having to acquire land, you already have these institutional anchors. Start your downtown here and grow it across the street. I don't know if that's the case, if that would work. Scott and I were kind of debating if you can start it here and grow it here and across the street both, if this would be a catalyst. But the question is, that might be possible, do you want to study that? If so, that's a very different study, that's a different consulting team than a sports venue. That's a land use consulting, land use urban planners. We hire someone like Jeff Speck and a team like that to show us what could, if we're talking about this area and not talking about rodeo and not talking about necessarily growing the Veterans Park into the rodeo arena, but rather growing the downtown to surround Veterans Park and try to make Veterans Park a surrounded park with downtown type of uses, then we're hiring different consultants and we're doing a different study. Council, which way do you want us to go on this?
I have a question.
Yes.
At some point, this property was set aside for green space in our city. I don't know how that.
Oh, is it like it may be deed restricted?
uh,
Oh, that's the first thing we gotta
checked
check.
into that to
Haven't.
see,
Mm-mm.
Because I know that.
Where the road is?
the whole that to say, we're going to have this park in this green area, and so, and I don't know. I just know that it was set aside for that purpose. And number two is, we already have a parks master plan that says what was basically gonna go over. And because if we're doing this, we're not just talking the rodeo arena, we're talking the rest of the green space for the park. So for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions. First of all, is it even plausible?
That's a
Or
good
is there
question.
restriction?
Yeah.
Number two, I'm guessing it would be all of the area that you want to do. Number three, then we need to replace not just, in my mind, we need to replace not just a rodeo grounds, but a park for the east side of the city. Because when we say mixed use, I'm pretty sure, I just looked up Vineyard, I'm pretty sure that it will be very high in residential. And if I'm living right by Veterans Park, adding that many more units right here where it's walkable, Veterans Park is not gonna be somewhere I'm gonna bring my family anymore because it's always going to be really busy. And so I think it's great to consider it, but I think there's some ancillary things that we also need to consider in this discussion, not just, hey, do we wanna move the rodeo grounds? I think can we? What about the rest of the green space? How do we make up for the people on the east side and not lose those amenities that we're going to be future amenities at the park? Where are we going to do that instead?
So that, I'm just gonna go, so looking at that picture, that's all I've ever seen of that space, except when there used to be a sugar factory there. And I used to do plays in that. I have never seen anything that even made that look like that was ever going to be a green space. So was there, and I'll get to you in a second, Mayor, was there ever a time that that was supposed to be all traded out and become a green space?
They've
Just
shown
built
us the
a
parks
theater on
master
it,
plan
so-
before.
We just built a theater on it, so it's obviously not all.
There was going to be an amphitheater, there were going to be, I don't know, at one time a splash pad was thought over there. I don't remember what
Okay,
the
no,
study, but
just-
somewhere, I'll bet Mr. Langford's could probably know where the study's at.
Real quick though, Mary, you
The,
want to
the
say
park
something and then I'll
study
go
that
to
we
Scott.
saw
Oh,
a few years
I
back.
want, Mayor first.
Sorry, wait.
no, you're good.
Back when Mayor Evans was the mayor,
Mhm.
there was talk about doing precisely this, putting commercial on the first floor, residential above it, and up here. And there was strong opposition that came from the residents then, in fact, there was one of those contentious meetings. So I attended, so just be aware.
Mhm.
I think a lot of those people are gone, but a lot of them are still around. And at that point, they didn't want to turn that part into use. That's when they came up with the best plan we have today. They backed off of that and created what we have today. That was going to build where this area is there, and that's when they moved the rodeo to where it is now.
Okay.
The rodeo wasn't always
No.
No, it was over on the north side of the park.
So that's just a little history.
Yeah.
Mr. Langford.
The Parks Master Plan, sorry, I was texting David Clements to try to find answers about your deed restrictions. I believe Corey's team was reviewing the last parks, yeah, you're nodding.
Yeah, well, we presented this into, we had, so as right as I started, it finished up where it was a conceptual design showing a splash pad and pickleball courts that could go through there, but it was never adopted as an official master. That one that I
There is an old Vets Master, the reason why it was never fully adopted, there is an older Vets Master Plan which does show all that area green space built out, the park surrounding the swimming pool.
What are we talking about though? Because when before you and I got on and they were gonna put the theater over next to 78th, there was a deed issue putting them there.
Oh, that was.
No, but there was also an issue with
Was it
turning
with
the park green space into, and that's why it was okay over here. So I think, I see what you're saying, but I think this area you can develop. I don't think you can develop the park area.
I think if
I
there's
just
any,
think it's
if there's
something
any
we need to make
restrictions
more.
on it that are self-imposed, we can unself-impose them. We have the authority to do stuff on city.
You can
owned
change zoning.
Yeah, I know, we do it once in a while, every now and then.
No, but I know that was one of the reasons that the theater couldn't be built. UDOT was one reason, but there was another reason.
I thought it was
Because
just
of
the
the park.
UDOT, I thought it was just the stuff,
Okay. All right, Scott.
so.
So if we go down that road, looking at other uses on that, we'll definitely need to look at more in-depth studies and to see, but Dave Clements, who's a very good source of information, thinks that there is no deed restriction as far as changing that land use. There are other things, there's contracts with the cell provider in that area that we need to work through, but the initial blush is, it is a possibility. It's not like the north end of Betts Park does have a UDOT deed restriction, and that's what we ran into years ago when we were trying to do the cultural arts up there.
Not the restriction.
So, I think you're gonna need to have a
Easements.
rodeo ground somewhere.
That was definitely a takeaway from our last conversation is part of West Jordan's heritage is the rodeo. We need to accommodate for and keep rodeo.
Right, it doesn't necessarily have to be there. And frankly, if we tore that one down and put it up somewhere else, it's not a heavy lift. It's
It's aluminum.
it's aluminum.
Oh, I see.
It's there's not a lot there to pick up and move, right? It's some bleachers and a shipping container on stilts. Okay, maybe not 2 shipping containers on stilts.
Little container park.
But so if I was thinking of what to put there, if I was imagining like SimCity playing and thinking about the city center plans that we have kicked around for over here, and if this property is available, my first thing is this is where some sort of office tower goes for the school district to move into. Because we can build it without disrupting anything over there. You build some sort of office tower for the school district to move into. It doesn't have to be only the school district, that's where you start.
Yep.
And then that frees up catalyst number 2.
So could that building, because really they don't have a ton of offices across the street, they have more warehouse and
Refrigerators.
security and the refrigeration freezer units.
I also think we've heard from some people on the board that this might not be the ideal location for the district anymore because it's not centered to the district. So they've even looked at,
They want to go south and west.
exactly.
Yeah, they're willing to move.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not worried about moving the district across the street or building something for the district. If the district moves from here, they're not moving across the street.
Or at least they don't have to.
It would make it
I think they want to move out if they can, rather than rebuilding something new here.
Councilmember Whitlock in a previous meeting said something that struck me. And that is, do we want to keep district facilities in our city in case
There's a
other cities want to split off from Jordan School District? And I think she has a unique point of view, having been on the school board prior to the city council. Would you like to speak to that at all?
Well, it's just a very real reality that there is a community to the south of us that has a fairly big part of their population that would like to split from the district. And if they do, then you end up with the same thing that happened when Jordan split, right? The administration building, the only thing we had on the west side was the bus depot. They had all the other buildings on the east side, so all those other buildings. That's why Jordan District is in Grand Central. Because it was available. And so I do think it is something that we should keep in mind that, do we really want them to leave?
Because my initial thought was, yeah, let's get them out of here.
Well, and they're, in fairness, there's no property tax there, so
Yeah.
you may want to say goodbye. But
We have
it's
to-
just, it is something that we should be a little bit in the back of our minds, keep that there. That if they're all gone, if everything left, and they would, especially the bus depot, I haven't heard it so much about these guys as much, but the bus depot, they'd really like to have something farther south, because it's a long commute for those buses every day.
Why did they split?
Why did the district split? Because the East Side didn't want us anymore. They thought we were costing too much money to build all these new
All
schools
the new
out here.
all the kids were out here, and all the tax income at the time was on the east side of the valley.
Well, at the time, I actually lived on the east side of the valley and I actually voted on that. So it's good to be told what my thought process was. It's always nice to know what I was thinking.
So the core question here is if we're okay with the rodeo grounds.
One.
Yes, the core question is, do you want to do a land use study of what might be possible here before doing a venue study?
So I'll say one thing that I like about this, and Councilmember Jacob brought up something that I had spoke to as well, is we can start the district move and and really also turn this rodeo ground area into sort of phase one of our downtown, where we could put in a little office, we could have been, put in some, a little bit of the high density residential. Then we've got areas for things that could complete this out as an incredible sort of art district-esque kind of area where we've got the theater, we've got the library, we've got a rec center, we've got a park, we've got another park, we've got a bunch of little areas around here, not only just our city campus, but then this is, and I'll bring it up, I hadn't brought it up in a while than other talks, but a container park kind of thing that would do very well for the people who are in the apartments there, plus into just the whole overall area. Then, at one point, Councilmember Shelton and I were talking about, do we try to move the track station back over here to 2200? But I don't think we'd really need to. With a pedestrian bridge over Redwood, we not only give anyone who is in that area a great access over to the track station, but it also starts to put in people's mind that this is where the next phase of downtown is going to be, on the other side of this bridge. And then that bridge now connects the phases of a downtown, and we start to really see it. Because right now we seem to be, handcuffed to the idea that we can't start until we do something with the school district, where just, a couple hundred feet away from that area is land that we own, and we could figure out a way to start it and come up with a phase one to our downtown district there, which I think would be something that would then help entice the businesses and things that we need into the phase two side of things, and get us where we would have the big amphitheater over on the other side now. And we'd have some of those other, and we could put a park in that area and build that out into something different. Where phase one would be the thing that helps us attract those things that we need to make it more reasonable to have a park. We talk about the green space there. We have green space on this side of Redwood. We had that there and then green space on the other side of Redwood. I think that gives us a better looking spread of parks. So that's just some of my thoughts on this and why it started to excite me with the idea of possibly just moving the rodeo grounds. It also gave us the option that we could build out the rodeo grounds or arena or whatever we want and get that done while this rodeo ground is still there, and not move the rodeo until that is done. So there's never a hiccup or a rush to get things done. So we do it right instead of trying to just do little bits of things on this ground. We could do it right from the ground up where we move it. And then once it's done, we just, we close down this rodeo grounds and start phase one of downtown. Those are my thoughts on this.
Where in the city would you envision putting the rodeo grounds? Like, are we gonna put them by Marie's house?
We could do something interesting where we've never really thought, but we have that one track station out by Bingham. Would be a place that
Okay.
could be out there. Then we've got this, because it would be more than just a rodeo. It'd be, if it's like an arena thing, we're one stop away from the baseball thing. So we've almost got this sort of semi-sportsy district we're kind of creating there. So that's one place I was thinking might be good.
We'd have to revise that
Plan out, yeah.
station area plan to make that work.
We were trying to figure out exactly what's gonna go there, what's gonna make it.
Well, the
viable
containers are
stop.
just gonna be a little bit different. They're gonna be chutes instead of.
Yep. Yep.
We've got probably 2 or 3 different possible sites for the rodeo venue,
Okay.
each with pros and cons.
So one negative I see with this is a connection issue. So obviously 2200 is a 2-lane road. I don't see us widening that any. Redwood roads are a 6-lane road, and you have the connection problem with City Hall, our police station, the what's our next police station?
The district court.
The district courts, and then these offices. They're all in the way of people seeing this little area here. So this area is tucked way back inside, and it's not connected like you would be if you were out on. Look at that.
Right, yeah, I
out
know.
there. So yeah, there is there's a wall that kind of separates us from Redwood with this area in the back.
So I think it's gotta be a government, I mean, this is our civic block, right? I don't think a private
When you say civic block, what are you saying this?
Civic, it's the park, it's everything on this block is government owned and operated and run.
So what else do you wanna put in
County
the
code?
road?
We gotta start,
That's what I don't understand.
we gotta start moving away from Euclidean zoning for this downtown thing.
I agree, but I think
So-
that there's a benefit to a government kind of campus, and putting something different right in the middle of kind of a government campus is kind of weird. Euclidean or otherwise, it's just,
So
so
if we
it
move
makes
the
sense to
road, what
me
are you guys saying we
to put the
put there?
school district there.
That's why he was a statue.
Alright, is that the school district?
Well, that, I don't want that taking up the whole space.
Well, school district.
Parking. No, and I would like to look at some of the things we learned from having the Carmel mayor come out is parking underneath structures. I'd like to see us maybe start figuring out if we can make some of that work.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about with Jeff Speck was this land is exciting to him. 20 acres with all these institutional anchors around it, but also the prevalence of surface parking. If you start to think of surface parking as raw ground and a blank canvas, there's a lot of suddenly a lot of potential for new things that could be done where currently we've been using, low investment per square foot surface parking. So the land use study, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we want to do a land use study, I wouldn't limit it to just this 20 acres. I would say, give us some ideas to think more holistically about the whole campus, or about the whole campus and across the street.
And so Jeff Speck's assistant was all goo-goo about our city hall parking lot and what we could do but with that to build it up. The parking lot, just,
Our tiny little city hall parking lot.
yeah, she
Not
was
that
nuts
tiny,
about
actually.
that.
Wow.
And saying how that could be built up and become something amazing with structure parking built in there with this, wouldn't even be visible. On the other side.
If you look at that map of the things that are built, over half of the map is parking.
Yeah.
If you take out the rodeo grounds and the non-built stuff.
So when you stop trying to accommodate for every possible car that may come to this location.
Right.
And start accommodating for pedestrians.
And giving them a 9 by 16 foot whatever piece of real estate.
Yeah.
You start requiring structured parking.
Then things can start to happen.
Think of every cool downtown you've ever been to, they've all got structured parking. All.
South Jordan's little downtown doesn't have, I like their little downtown.
Kayleen, the cool is in the eye of the beholder.
It will.
I think,
Yeah, I think it will.
It's got a great big parking garage being built just north of the stadium there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm convinced that it should be a land use study instead of a sports arena study.
Well, so, but would we be looking then, Mr. Lee, on, we're now talking two studies. We need one for the rodeo, wherever it's gonna be, sports venue, and one for this now.
I would start with a land use study and then hit pause and say, do we like this? Is this the direction we want to go? And then if the answer is yes, then we work on
Okay.
locations for the rodeo arena, maximizing use of the rodeo arena, that kind of thing.
It's gonna be my next question, is there one we would start and maybe?
I would not, if you want to do this as a land use study, I would do that and then hit pause and then make some decisions.
Would we be fielding an actual downtown where people can come and gather, like, kind of like South Jordan's or any other downtown that you've been to where they do have a gathering area for people? Would that be something that we would want in this area, or?
That's what I would want.
I mean, you've got the arts center there. I think it would be a natural fit.
Well, I would want, if we're gonna turn it into something other than a park, I would want it to have some kind of a downtown feel where you could do a small farmer's
Yeah,
market,
gathering
maybe.
spaces, plaza, or central square, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, something to
Yeah.
make it, so that it really does feel like a downtown, not just another area.
Yeah, and I like the idea of, I remember we saw one design for our downtown, like after I got elected, where they had the amphitheater, but it was facing north-south instead of east-west, where I was like, man, you could use the whole mountains as your backdrop of this amphitheater. What are we doing? But we could have something like that, with that whole area at times isn't a staging area for things, but it's also, the rest of the time it's just this grass open area that's meeting, where you could do some things like a farmer's market. You could do different rallies, all kinds of stuff could all happen in an area like that with our mountains as the backdrop of. I want to see us start using, some of that as well. We're designing things that we're looking at, the overall beauty of it. Anyway, so our main talk here was what kind of study we would like to see. We've heard from Mr. Lee is that we could do a land use study here, hold off. One suggestion he's making is hold off on a rodeo ground study, especially for this area, but even hold off on if we move it. And we go with this, see if we like this idea. If it's something that's not appealing to a majority of this council, then we can go back to the rodeo grounds and keeping it here. And how do we put it in to still maybe fit with what could be a burgeoning downtown location with that. I don't know many cities that have put a rodeo grounds as part of their overall downtown aesthetic, but there's no reason why it can't be. So is that something we would like to see with that? Are there any other discussions that need to be made, and maybe we take a vote on that if that's where we'd like to go with our study?
I think it does. I just think it needs to be done in conjunction with the 30,000-foot view of the rest of.
It's across the road street as well.
As part and parcel.
Sorry, what was that, Councilmember?
I'd like to know the mayor's opinion.
Well, then let's hear the mayor's opinion.
Should stay on the council then.
Have any information to make a good decision.
So that was non-committal in any way,
That
shape, or
means go
form?
with the study.
Other than information, we were gonna get information no matter what study we did. Any other thoughts from the
Why not
council?
do both studies? If you do the first study, if you like it, you can still do the second study.
Right. Any other discussion from the council? Do I have 4 people who would like to move forward on a land use study of possible new thing for the,
Nope, you have 7.
I have 7. That's a 7. Okay, Corbin, do you need any other information about what kind of study?
Well, I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna put Corey's team on hold. Where'd Corey go? Corey's team was all set to work on the RFP for the rodeo venue. We're gonna put his team on hold on that study and tee it up with economic development and community development to now be more of a, economic development, land use study.
Mr. Grover
And
needs something to do.
there might, as we try to write the RFP for the scope of that study, we might have a few questions, but we'll get going on that.
Okay, cool, you got what you needed?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. All right, now that we've kind of had that out of the way, and like I said, I thought that this would have weight on this next one. This is gonna be item 2B. This is the 2026 resident survey. It will be 2B, and we know not about it. Here we've got, Alan is here from the staff, but we also got Kyrene Gibb and Ethan Meldrum from a Y Analytics. Y2.
Why not?
I missed the.
Mine too.
So,
Why
for the
not?
last 3 years, the council's funded a survey of the community, and there's 2 groupings of questions. One question is kind of an ongoing, we ask the same question every year to kind of get a pulse from the residents of how things are progressing or not progressing, so they can be addressed by the administration. The second set is kind of the topic of the day or current trends. The last time we discussed the rodeo grounds, the majority of you believed and asked if we could include some questioning, which is kind of why we put this the rodeo topic first on this agenda, is now that you've got kind of an idea of that. So they're gearing up. It's going to be about a 7 week process to get the survey out. They do try and follow, and they've done very well at it. Usually 1,000+ respondents, equal amounts in the 4 districts in the city. And they try and match the respondents, from homeowners, renters, all the different demographics, so that you've got a really good study. Those results, as you read in your packet of last year's survey results, a lot of those are used in the budget process. So as you look at each department, you can see how they've progressed. So there is a tie-in directly to the budget. That's feedback that's valuable for you as council members, funding the different programs within the city. So Kyrene has been pretty standard with us over the years. And Ethan is coming on board for the project this year. We supply him, ways to contact our residents through utility billing, and they have other sources that we don't have. So with that, really what the outcome is for tonight is in your packet on the standard questions, there's some of them that are highlighted in yellow. Those are kind of the topics the current trends. We can still include those if those trends are still important. We can also include questions related to the rodeo grounds. So Kyrene and everybody can kind of answer that. I don't have any slides for it, it's just kind of a dialogue. All I ask is, as we go through this, we'll allow them to create the questions, just kind of what are you looking for? So that's kind of what we'd like to do tonight.
Yeah, and based on the direction that the prior conversation went, I might suggest rather than focusing on the rodeo at this point, if we're thinking about land use and placemaking, and that's where the priorities are for the council at this time, then I would say those are the types of questions that we would want to ask residents about. What would they like to see in a city center, in a gathering place? What types of events or things do they envision creating that culture, that sense of downtown that isn't just, another development, but something that adds value to the community? That's where my mind goes immediately based on the prior discussion again, but very open to council's ideas or questions, whatever it is you would like to learn from residents this year. We did have last year's questions that were sort of rotated in. We're focused on beautification of the city and code enforcement. Again, we could revisit those questions if that's helpful, or we can pivot here. So open the floor.
I ask a couple of more general questions.
Yes.
One is, on the second thing on this, that was in our packet, it says, do you live in West Jordan? And the answer is yes or no, but it says terminate.
So if they answer no, we're screening them out.
Oh, okay, it's
Yeah,
just
we
for
just
your
wanna
notes.
talk to residents.
Okay, it's
Yep,
just your
that's a
notes.
programming note.
And then on another one, we use a 5-year time frame, and I just wanted to know, kind of comparing, why 5 years? Is 5 years the optimal?
So typically 5 years is helpful because it is enough resident tenure that they have a basis for comparison. It's when we're looking at a city that is sort of growing and changing fairly rapidly, we don't want to go too much longer than that. So that 5-year window is sort of a good happy medium where it's recent enough in residents' memory that they can make a comparison, but enough distance that the things may have changed. Their sense of what makes the community the way it is may have changed.
It just seemed like a lot of the responses were, I haven't lived here long enough to know.
And
So that's why I wondered, is 5 years the right amount?
That's one of the reasons I think it is valuable, actually, because we want to know how many of our residents that are responding to this survey are new to the city, and is that shifting over time? Are we seeing more stability in those responses, or are we seeing still a large share of our residents who say, hey, I haven't been here long enough to make that comparison? So that's valuable for us as well analytically.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions methodology-wise or about the survey instrument as it stands?
I just wanted to say that I really loved the question and the way it was designed about beautification. Imagine you were given $100 and I thought that was a super smart way to do that. I personally would love to have that again. I'm not sure how long or how much, especially if you've been on the project for a long time, keep the same question over and over again. years to track things over time, or?
It depends. So as Alan was saying, there are sort of two classes of questions in the survey, and most of the survey is designed to be trended over time. We want to make sure that we're getting a good lens on patterns in the data, not just the current pulse. That question in particular was one of the ones that was just, a timely topic last year. And then I mentioned the code enforcement questions as well.
Yeah.
Usually 2 to 3 questions for some of those timely topics are what we would want to rotate in and out. If there is something that is a higher priority that needs a little bit more time and involvement in the survey than that, we could look at other questions that maybe we put on hold for a year and revisit after we've done due diligence on the topics that the council's interested in exploring.
I'd love to have a question that has to do with citizen opinion on water usage. It's something that I hear a lot about, it's on the top of mind of a lot of people. I'm saying something and I don't really have a suggestion of how to do it, but something like that would be very interesting to see.
What kind of information are you hoping to get from the question?
Maybe like willingness to make a change or opinion about how the city is addressing water conservation or something like that. That sort of information might be helpful for us to use in conversations.
We could absolutely look at that. Any other thoughts, topics?
I still think your $100 one, maybe that's the place we add the rodeo to. Cause I do think it would still be beneficial for us to find out the pulse of where the city is for the rodeo. Cause I know there are some people, like my neighbor, like January, she's calling me, I need to get rodeo tickets. Okay. But, is that still the majority? Cause if we're looking at making changes, I wanna make sure we make them in the right direction.
So then you would put part of your $100 toward improvements on the rodeo.
Yeah.
Or some questions help us understand how in general.
Yes.
I think it might be good to have at least one question that is just directly towards rodeo. I don't mind, I like it being a part of the $100 question as well. I think if we had something that was just there, and maybe, I don't know if we need to, cause I think there's a kind of misconception that we see the rodeo and the carnival as this one big huge event. But I see many of our residents who see it as two separate things and.
There's these people.
Yeah, well, not even that. I'm driving the cart. I would have people going, so what's going on over there? It's a big carnival. How do you not see that it's a big carnival? What's that? And so I don't know how we do something there. And I don't know, Corey, if there's something a way to kind of put something that would help you guys understand.
We've thought about, I'm not sure either, we kind of battled the same question, how
Yeah.
do you ask it? It's tricky.
Because I think that is something. Do you? And I don't want to just waste the whole question. Do you think that the rodeo and the carnival are connected, or that seems like such a weird thing? But somehow, maybe it's a part of our what is your favorite part of our July 4th celebration kind of thing. Is it the rodeo? Is it the carnival? Is it parade? Is it Kent's bingo calling?
Would it be the parade if we disallowed something?
No, I don't know if we know.
Or the tiny stage.
The tiny, I don't know if we know, because like I said, to me, when I moved in with my wife near here, I'm not a rodeo person, so I just like to walk over to the carnival and we'd go and do that and then leave. And so the rodeo was not even remotely a part of anything I cared about.
There were a
But-
few years we didn't have the carnival and they brought it back.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
But that was for the exact purpose you're talking about is.
Yeah.
Some people wanna have fun, but they don't wanna go to the rodeo.
Yeah, so that's, maybe we start seeing what people see as the big draw there.
Well, we also had a conversation not that long ago about separating carnival
Yeah,
and
yep.
rodeo, right?
Well, that
Like
might,
about having our city celebration one time in there.
that might give us that. If our city is telling us
Beat day.
one thing over the other, we could,
Yeah, beat
I
day.
thought we
Yeah.
made that decision actually already.
Exactly,
It
so.
was just
I
floated.
took you as making it, we're moving towards that.
Was pretty sure it was made, yeah.
So your questions on these two yellow, the first one I wanna keep, the second one is on code enforcement. And I feel like we've expended a lot of budget towards code enforcement, and then maybe we need to pause and see if what we've expended is making a difference. And then ask code enforcement maybe in a year or two again.
I would agree, because I think last year's survey had a lot of code enforcement. And then the other one?
The first one was the $100 one.
Oh, that's, yeah,
And those are the two highlighted things that I
Right.
saw.
I would agree with that.
Okay, any other thoughts or topics, current trends that are on your mind? I think we can do something with water.
Great.
And then maybe come up with a couple questions or 3 questions, I don't know, related to rodeo, but we can talk about that based on this discussion.
Yeah, I think we have a good sense of direction here, so that gives us what we need. We'll come back to you all with a draft questionnaire
Yes.
in pretty short order.
And then we'll,
I thi-
lots
I
of
think-
changes. Just kidding.
I think it's really nice that you've worked on the Western survey for a number of years. Thanks for doing that.
My pleasure.
That probably makes the product better. Thanks.
I like to think so.
From the staff that's in the room, do any of you have any things that you think you might like to see what the city is thinking?
Sorry, I was raising my hand earlier, but it was to say what the mayor and others said is we took it as direction at the retreat to move forward with
Right.
beat days and split off the carnival in the future. So there was a
They've
little
already
bit of
moved
question
on.
about that, but there's no question in our mind. We thought we got direction from the council to do it, so we're doing it.
But still with that, we've got,
Beat days?
we've got members of, different parts of our city right now. Are there any things that any of you would like to
Down days.
see brought up? And maybe the job that your department might be doing or anything, if you think it is something that could be brought up in a survey? This would be a chance for you to speak up. Pavement maintenance? What kind of answer would you be looking to
Do
get?
you
some-
love asphalt?
Yeah, do
Or
you-
not?
do you like-
Just say
do you
I
like
want
to-
that.
do you like potholes? What kind of information would you be looking to get?
Think about it, but just get a feel where they're at with it. I think we've asked Corbin, if I remember right, we've asked that question before.
We do have a question about,
The level of service
Yeah.
basically.
yeah, level of service rating for surface maintenance on city streets and roads. And we clarified last year to revise the question a little bit, or revise the question to clarify excluding highways and interstates maintained by UDOT. So we wanna focus on city owned and maintained roads.
All,
So that's in there already.
all of those kinds of questions like that one, we just ask, on
That'll
a
be
liquor
there.
scale, how do you feel about it? How are we doing?
Yep.
The questions we don't ask is willingness to pay. How important is it to you, and are you willing to open your checkbook to pay for better asphalt maintenance or not?
Yeah.
That's a step
What if
further.
we put something in there that's almost like the $100 one that said something like, what are things you would be willing to see an increase
Would you
in
be willing
Texas to pay for? And maybe there's some of that
would you
list, I don't know if
be willing
that's
to
something.
pay $100
We have
per
asked some
year?
of those kinds of questions in the past. We've asked about willingness to pay for trails, some different things. That's the
Maybe.
question in my mind when we talk about asphalt maintenance. We know everyone wants smooth asphalt.
Yeah,
The question is, are you willing, how much do you want smooth asphalt?
Maybe the question is, because the first one is, if you were to take $100 of the city's budget, where would you spend it? What if it was, if you had to put $100 of your own money into something? I mean, maybe it's a little bit different instead of, I don't know.
The tricky thing about a willingness to pay question is that if we don't have a specific project or
Right.
something to fund, it's not concrete to residents. It's all in the abstract.
Mhm.
And when we're asking for more money in the abstract, the answer is always, why would I give you more money?
Yeah,
So I think if there are specific service areas that
Mhm.
the city would like to increase funding for, is
Well, that-
considering a tax increase.
That's why I said a list, we put in the courts.
I can't remember if there's anything for pickleball courts. Like
Not
in my area, but
specifically,
that's-
yeah.
I mean, that is something I get asked a lot from residents, we need, but do we, or how would they be willing to invest in more pickleball
Sure.
courts?
Maybe we can come up with a list of topics like pavement maintenance,
Yeah.
pickleball courts, and come up with the list to answer the concrete
Potential, yep.
potential, and then rate it on, are you willing to pay more for,
Yeah, we could
prioritize?
do something like that. The other piece that I will say is that if we don't have an amount more, the information is a little less reliable, a
Well,
little less
what we
useful
can
as well.
say is, what areas would you most like to see the city invest in?
Sure, and we can ask that question if what we're looking for is a sense of priorities. That's less of a sense of, are they willing to fund it?
Yeah.
And I think the funding question is the tricky one that we're
Right.
dancing around.
I get that, but
So-
investing in, you are also telling us what you would,
But they're not giving you an amount, and
I
so
know.
if we don't have,
but it gives us an idea.
sure, we can definitely get a sense of
Because
direction.
I can't say, would you rather see 30,000 spent on this or 80,000 spent on this?
Well, and
or-
we're not looking for what it would cost the city as a whole. What matters to residents is, what does it cost me to invest in this? So if we're looking at, would you be willing to pay an extra X number of dollars for investment in these areas? That's gonna give us much more reliable information. That's the kind of thing that residents would actually be voting on than, would you support the city investing X number of dollars to improve this? The individual impact becomes very important for how reliable this data is.
These surveys, do they work well if you were to give a hypothetical, saying if the city were to,
Hypothetically, does the survey work well?
yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, do you get good answers from, if we use a hypothetical, if the city were going to raise property tax of $5 a home, hypothetically, where would you rather see that $5 go? Does that kind of thing?
Yes, and that's exactly what I was trying to get at, is having an amount and the priority areas is going to give us that 1-2 punch of a sense of direction and just overall willingness to pay or invest to see those priorities come to fruition.
Okay.
So
So-
that would be my suggestion. If there is a dollar amount, sort of as an average per household hypothetical, and we have a list of areas that the city would be interested in investing in, the trickiest part is just making sure that that dollar amount is realistic and would make an impact in those areas that we would like to test.
Problem with doing that is that somebody with a more valuable piece of property would pay a lot more than $5, and somebody who's maybe they're a renter and they wouldn't even see the impact on their rent.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's why
So
I'm trying to come up with something that we can get something in.
Yeah,
Trying to land on
it's
something.
certainly a question of, an average impact. We can't tell everyone, this is exactly how it would affect your property taxes.
there's no way to do that.
But when we do bond research, for example, we will give the impact the way that it's presented in ballot language. So
Right.
for the average household, this is what that would look like. And that's the way we would suggest framing it in a survey question as well.
Yeah, like I said, and that's what I was trying to say hypothetically, it was hard to come up with exact things.
Yeah.
This would probably be the year to put it in, how we did on snow.
That's right, with our snow removal.
I'm sure your snow removal ratings will be off the charts this year, yeah. We're in good shape there.
Just means you gotta do better next year.
Put some back. Yeah, you gotta put some back.
We'll disappoint next year.
Mr. Grover, with you being new in this position, are there any questions we could ask in here that would help you in this position?
I always wonder if growth sentiment kind of question. Do you feel that your city's growing, just right?
That is one of the
growing
questions
too
we do have.
fast? Sometimes I've seen that in surveys, and I wasn't sure if that was in this.
We have that, they seem to be, it seemed like it was at least around 50 was the somewhat or strongly agree.
The only thing about that question though, is your city growing too fast? What would you like us to do about that? Would you like us to hit the brake? Would you like us to not allow building permits anymore?
Some of them would.
You wanna talk about cost of housing, there's some questions I don't want the answer to.
That is, yeah, I don't advise asking a question you don't want the answer to.
Generally, yes.
We need something for, trying to think if there's a question in there, it's been a while, amenities in the city. Things that we've, we can say things like, we've increased our passport office, we've done something, are there other amenities in the city? Which I don't know if that's a realistic question or not. Services, that's the word I'm saying. Maybe condiments, maybe that's.
I don't know if
Would you like the mustard?
goes in line with what you're asking, but the survey did ask about interaction with the city
Yeah,
and how
We-
satisfied they were.
We do also have a question that asks whether residents feel the city provides all the services they think it should provide. If they say they disagree with that sentiment, we could add a follow-up question to ask what services they
That's
feel are
what I'd
missing
like
or
to
what
see.
they would
That'd be
like to
beautiful.
see.
Yeah, what are we missing? If you're not happy, what are we missing? Or what would you like to see? Even if you're happy.
Or,
See how many
Yeah, even
liquor
if you're
stores
happy.
we get.
the one I like
What would
is,
you
the
add?
one that I like is if you feel your taxes are too high, what would you like us to cut? Nobody ever has a good answer to
No
that
one
one.
has a good
Everybody says, yes, your taxes are too high. What would you like us to cut? No.
City council.
The cost of this service.
Cost of the survey. I like that one. That's a good one.
Okay, any other last minute, or not last minute, but any other ideas? We can include, what we can do is once we get the questions ready, we can just kind of email it to each of you before it goes out, and then we'll work on getting it out to the residents and get it compiled and cross out.
Cool. Everyone on the council, you feel like you got your say in on this? Cool.
And then we'll have them come back in July-ish and
Perfect.
just present the results to you.
Okay.
In a work meeting.
Well, that'll be fun. We look forward to that.
We always do as well.
All right.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it.
All right. Now we'll move on to our item 2C. It's the discussion of proposed amendments, advice and consent. And we will have Alan leading us in this.
Thank you, council. Over the past several months, even with the prior council, when there's been advice and consent, matters that have come before you, there hasn't really been consistency. You get things like resumes and qualifications for planning commissioners, but you meet different department heads and others. And pretty much members from the prior council and this council have asked, can we kind of standardize this? So I worked with Corbin Lee, who's the chief administrative officer, to come up with kind of a standard way, but still leave it flexible at the direction of the body. And so there's a couple sections in code and then a new council rule that we have in it. I'd like to go through that fairly quickly. So this is in 178 of the code, the mayor's appointments. Previously, this goes back to prior to the change in form of government. It was added way back then, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, that the human resource director and the IT director go through advice and consent. That seems kind of odd a little bit, just because in this form of government, it's the mayor's people or the department heads of human resources and IT. But most of you have asked, why aren't we doing the economic development director? And that's because it's not a department head in our org chart. But now what we're doing is taking out the human resource director and the IT director and adding in economic development director. So in the future, when the city hires an economic development director, it will come to advice and consent. That seems very reasonable because this council and the prior council were very much very engaged with economic development. That is one of your priorities in the budget. So that's the one code edit there. And then the other amendment, and Patrick is here to answer any legal questions you have on this. The Executive Branch Temporary Committee isn't really subject to advice and consent. It's a statutory committee. So we're deleting that, and then the reference changed when we amended Title II a year or so ago. The definition changed, so it cleans the definition to 212 instead of 213.
That's not gonna work. Oh my gosh, remember. We do 214.
And then this is the point where it gives the council the flexibility. You get to choose if you want to meet them or not. That includes planning commissioners. So we're just adding The city council may elect to meet with appointees, and these would be the mayor's appointees. Prior to providing advice and consent, such meetings shall follow the procedures outlined in council rules. So it gives you the flexibility, if you wanna meet them, maybe it's a promotion coming from within, you already know the new department head that's transitioning over. So maybe you don't wanna meet with them, or you do. And then we added in council rules, Rule 3.9, which basically says certain appointed positions within the city may be filled with the consent of the council. And that's department heads, the CAO, we remove HR and IT and bring in economic development director. Council members may meet with the appointee together during an arranged appointment or as part of an official meeting. If you wanna meet them in small groups, or if you wanna meet them in committee of the whole, those are options to you. A vote on consent will be scheduled as soon as possible after the arranged meeting. So if you choose to meet, you get to meet with them before they can go to advice and consent on an agenda. And the council packet contains information in council policies and procedures appendix A, which is the qualifications for them to serve as economic development director, for example, or for planning commissioner, or for a department head, public works, public services. And then council members still retain, this is what advice and consent really is, may grant or withhold advice and consent to appointed positions. Advice and consent is simply, the mayor is seeking your advice on is this person qualified to serve in that position. And it will also mean with, like, for example, planning commissioner, I know several years ago, when the council would interview planning commissioners under the old form of government, they would get a consensus of who they were gonna appoint. This kind of, I don't wanna say it allows that, because the mayor gets to appoint individuals for the planning commission, but you would be able to say, is this person qualified to be a planning commissioner? Is this person qualified to be a public whatever director? And then we renumber the current 3.9 to 3.10. So those are the three changes. Corbin's here to elaborate on from the administration side. Patrick's here for any legal questions you may have, but that's what we're proposing to kind of standardize advice and consent. And we will work with the mayor's office a little bit earlier for planning commissioner, so that you have the opportunity to meet the mayor's appointees for the planning commission before advice and consent.
First, Mayor, you had something you wanted to add with this?
Yeah, on B, I would recommend removing as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mayor. I was gonna suggest the same thing. There might be instances where after you meet them, there's a question raised, or you ask the mayor to hit pause and the mayor agrees, or the candidate may say, oh, I've met the council, I'm not sure, I need to think about it, or, you know, just strike in the phrase as soon as possible. I don't think you want that in ordinance.
What does as soon as possible means? You met with them today, you gotta meet with them tonight.
Yeah.
Talk to them
No,
today.
I agree that that's that is something former Councilmember Green would have brought up as well.
So
He lives on.
my concern is I don't see anything here still that doesn't allow for us to be given the information on our packet on Friday, then come to our meeting on Tuesday and have a vote on Tuesday night. There's nothing that says that's not gonna occur still, and that's what my issue has been. It's like, you've already brought in this person and their family and they're waiting in there for us to go vote. And you've brought them here tonight and I meet them and I realize, actually I do know a reason why you shouldn't serve in this capacity, but I don't feel like I can go vote no now because I haven't had time to talk to 6 other people without doing it in a public manner, which you wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't think. So I don't find anywhere in there that makes it so we're not just doing the same thing we've already always done.
Well, I agree
It's the
with
same.
Councilor Whitelock that we're really nothing more than a figurehead stamp on people at this point. And that's the way I think all of us have kind of felt on this when it comes to that. And it's set up, with the form of government, but it's almost like, why bother with us if what we have to really think doesn't matter?
Are you asking, Kayleen, can I ask, are you asking, you wanna meet them one meeting and not have the vote for their advice and consent on the same meeting?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the.
Yeah, and I don't see anything in what we've, in this RCA that does that. To me, it's, we changed a person or a position, but other than that, it's exactly what we've been doing, really.
Yeah, there's probably some wording that we can change differently. When I talked to Patrick, the idea was that you would meet them before, like even before the packet was put together, you would meet these individuals ahead of time. And then there would be a meeting for the advice and consent, but you would have time to express any concerns.
But nothing in the rules or the ordinance say that. There's nothing in this that says that's how it has to be.
So on the other side of that coin, I have concern that if we waited to the second meeting from the initial introduction, that's 2 weeks potentially where that person now can't take their position, and the city's in need of that position to be filled. Does that create problems? Could it create problems, or is that no big deal? Could I get some input on that?
That could be an issue if their other employer doesn't know they'll be leaving.
If, I think Kayleen, what you said is a valid concern, right? You ought to meet them and then not vote on them the very same night or an hour later. I think that's fair.
And like she said, with their family there, what are we gonna say?
Yeah, a candidate who is going through an advice and consent process, they put their current job a bit on risk, especially if it's a public process. So I don't like that taking a long time. But I think a moment to breathe, catch your breath, make sure from all parties that you've had a chance to check a reference or think about what they said in their meeting. I think that's fair. If there was language that said the meeting, the council members may meet with them, and then advice and consent vote will not be on the same day of the meeting or the initial meeting with the council. So you could meet with them not at a council meeting, but one Thursday or Friday, and then the next Tuesday at the council meeting have the vote.
I could get in line with that.
That's at least something. Give us an idea to.
And you've had some that were in closed meeting, you had some that were in a work session meeting, you had some that were in the break between work session and city council. The goal is to kind of standardize it and to not jeopardize someone who might.
Yeah, my personal preference is when council members meet the appointee, that it not be an open and public meeting. Because at that point, if it doesn't work out, now the vote has to be open and public. But the initial interview, my preference would be not to do that in an open and public meeting. In case it doesn't work out, they haven't jeopardized their current role.
Well, in all honesty, if we do it a week before and they've already talked and probably accepted a position, they've already jeopardized their current role. They weren't planning on getting voted in on Tuesday and calling the boss on Wednesday, going, by the way.
In these roles, we try to be, sometimes we're not as consistent as we should be, but we try to be very careful to say, we're offering you this job contingent upon a successful advice and consent process.
Which is pretty easy to guarantee if you're going to force them on us on a Tuesday night while we're eating food to vote on in an hour with their family all sitting in attendance. That's what Councilmember Whitelock is saying.
Yeah,
So we need to avoid that.
The intent of this, when we drafted it, the idea is, and Patrick, you can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but the idea was that there would be a day where you would meet the individual, and then there'd be a separate day where you do advice and consent.
And that works. It's at
And
least
maybe
something.
we can tweak the wording a little bit, but that's the
I'm
intent.
sure that was the intent, but when I read it, and it
Yeah.
has to be what we're reading, right? Because you and Patrick could be gone tomorrow. We could all be gone, you know, you never know.
Let's hope so.
And so it matters what the words say, not just what the intent is.
Patrick, did you?
Yeah.
Now we need to decide we're gonna keep Patrick. Everyone
Listen, while
votes?
the day is still here, I think the other thing too, just to keep in mind, so this is, the one that's up on the board right now is council rules. So this is for you. And this one here is the, essentially what you want from the mayor, and an executive side of things. And like Ellen was saying, we wanna standardize some process so that there's clear expectations and at the same time allow for some flexibility. Maybe there's a situation where you want to meet them in a certain setting during the week in the evening, maybe because it interferes with their current employment, like Corbin was saying, just to make sure that we don't jeopardize that. Maybe they're already a city employee and so it's easier for you to meet them at a different time or a different setting, but to allow some flexibility there. The other thing that I would say is when it comes to kind of what you want, I would just make sure to distinguish this section from the council rules to say, when do you anticipate setting it on your agenda for your vote to take place? How would you like to set those meetings up? And do you want it codified or in council rules to say, hey, here's how we want to handle these things? And I think I understand as well what you're saying is like, hey, it's just brought to us and just dumped on us. My thought is that if you're not comfortable though voting where you feel like you don't have enough information, even if there's kids in the front row, is to vote no, right? Or to postpone a vote or something. Like there's ways to address those concerns, but I think we're trying to create rules to not create those uncomfortable circumstances. So on this one here, right now, you're getting a packet with prior experience, background. There's not really timelines or anything in here. But the city council may elect to meet with appointees. And again, that's a may because it empowers you, but it also doesn't require it. It just allows it at your discretion. And then it falls back on council rules, which again are malleable and you guys can decide how you'd like those procedures to unravel. But balancing kind of the flexibility aspect of it with some expectation of consistency is really the goal. But I think I'm happy to take whatever feedback and try and implement it into the process. If you'd like to meet with them 2 weeks prior to a scheduled vote, we can craft that and make that happen. But just whatever kind of timeline you think would give you the opportunity to feel comfortable, I think is the goal.
It's just something I think we need to address. I mean, I will, with Mr. Grover, I found out he had got the job from a text from a friend of mine who said, hey, I just found out one of my good friends is gonna be your new economic development guy. I was like, what?
Well, his position at the time was not subject to device and consent.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, but then you helped put together the meeting where you and I met with him. I'm happy with the choice, but what I'm saying is it's interesting how, that is not something I should be getting in some way. But I mean, and it goes with the people who would be in that. I hate that same kind of thing to happen on someone who I was supposed to vote on. That's kind of what I was saying, that this could be something like that. And maybe it'll be better. Maybe that person has better friends that doesn't just yell things out to the ether like your friend did.
Well, I can tell you when the mayor was still a council member, we would meet in a closed meeting. We would meet the people and we'd be able to talk to them and interview them and sometimes they had their wives with them and we could learn about them. And then it was 2 weeks and then they got appointed. So to me, if you want me to vote on something, I want that time to be able to see if I really think they're the right candidate. Otherwise, I don't want it coming on the agenda and taking my time. Because you're asking me to rubber stamp when you bring them here for the work meeting or in between for the dinner and say, here's our new attorney, here's our new this. And it's on my agenda to vote on them, you're just saying rubber stamp. You're not giving me an opportunity.
So what about my concern of having that 2 week span of time? And
We did
and
it.
the need to fill that position, is that?
I think that's how Derek was hired, I think that's how
Yeah,
Ken Wallentine, I know that's how Ken was hired.
if I could
Yeah, go ahead,
Jared,
yes, I would
yeah,
love that,
I
Chief.
was thinking the same thing, and I will say one thing that was really helpful, I appreciated it, it might have even been a little overboard. But that night that I came and met with the council, I didn't know if I had the job. But I got kind of snuck up through the back stairwells and brought in so that nobody, because the fire service is a small world. And so I appreciated that the city was trying to protect me, that I was able to come in and have an interview, and then following that is when I actually got the confirmation that like, hey, we're gonna, bring you in and do advice and consent and stuff like that, so. For me, that was helpful.
Thank you. Currently, they get the job and then they come meet us. What are we gonna say? Nope, we don't agree with Corbin and the mayor, we're gonna vote no tonight, you're gonna get 7 no's.
And then it'll just get vetoed and moved on.
Well, it'll look really bad
Yeah.
for our city, right? If somebody's been hired, a family's sitting there, so I don't think the 2 weeks is a problem because we're not talking about the street worker. We're talking about
Let's
high
Come up
level,
with a different word.
we're talking about high level
Yeah.
where there's negotiation that's been going on. It's not like the mayor met with them yesterday and today they brought them, they've been working with them for a while.
What are the positions that fall under advice and consent? I don't have a good sense.
It is the CAO, so if Corbin would need to go through advice and consent, all the
What was
departments,
the term you used?
the CAO,
CAO?
Chief Administrative Officer. So that is one that's subject to advice and consent. All the department heads,
All the department
all
heads
the
are
department heads are advice and consent. Planning commissioners are advice and consent. And then we added one, just the economic development director is not a department head, it's a special function. Or what,
That's just a sliver of the city code, but we treat him for all intents and purposes like a department head. Yes.
He gets a corner office.
but the org
Oh,
chart.
yeah, what the crap?
The org chart
Which
doesn't
corner?
have them.
The
So all
approve and
department
consent that?
heads, planning commission,
Not
and
the good
CAO.
This
Planning
says
commission.
statutory officers, does that include the treasurer and the city recorder as well? They're statutory appointed
Yeah.
officers?
Yes, sorry, thank you for that.
And I'm not even trying to say that we
City
disagree
engineer.
with the people that we've had. I don't, and we know we don't have a say in the purpose of that, but if you're gonna ask us to do the pomp and circumstance, either tell us it's just fake or let us actually meet the person and have a good feeling about our vote. Cause we're the ones who, our name is on the vote, that we said this person's good. And if it turns out that they're not, then we were the ones that said this person is good. No one's gonna remember that they went through a hiring process and the mayor brought him and then brought him to the council. The last thing that happened was the council was the line that said yes or no to the final thing. And if it's fake, call it fake and we move on. And we have cookies and we do all that.
And maybe we don't vote on advice and consent, maybe it's a vote of acceptance. We used to, on the school board at the beginning, we did consent. But then we decided, you know what, we're not generating that note, we're just accepting that note. And so then we
Maybe
just
that's it.
voted to accept. So.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Shelton, his comment about the 2 weeks, I don't know that it's as big an issue because Chief Maxfield is right. before the change in form of government, pretty much all the department heads came up in a closed meeting with council members before the job was offered. And then the advice and consent was 2 weeks later. Same thing occurred with planning commissioners. The council met in small groups and interviewed candidates for planning commission that the administration, again, different form of government. And then it showed up on a future council meeting where those occurred. But it does give the council an opportunity to meet the individuals that the mayor's appointing for their qualifications. That's really what advice and consent is. There was an instance years ago in another city where the newly elected mayor, not West Jordan, newly elected mayor had appointed a person as a public works director, but had no public works experience. And in this meeting, and it's the same form of government, but in this meeting, when the mayor presented that to the council, they basically said, don't offer him, he's not qualified, he's not gonna get it. And so the mayor reached out and got another candidate, and they formalized that, but it was in the newspaper, and I mean, it was fairly public, and I don't know that we want it to be that kind of a thing.
It could be a closed meeting, right?
I'll leave that for the attorneys to decide, but probably we've done it before. But I do think it's okay to have some time between when you meet with them, when the mayor or Corbin present, hey, this is the person we're looking at. You have a meeting with them, and then put them on an agenda for advice and consent.
I am more than happy to withdraw my concern. Doesn't sound like it really is an issue, and I think 2 weeks would be great to have, for the council to have that time.
And I'm also not opposed to, or Councilor Whitelock was saying, that we just say we're accepting, because that's a very different code to us. That we're accepting this decision that was made because we're gonna be working with that person. But
Yeah, I was gonna say along those lines that advice and consent is statutory by the state for certain positions, and I would probably just leave it at that and say anything else. This is why the people elected to change the form of government to a strong mayor. We have a strong mayor, we don't have a strong mayor. We have a strong mayor except. To me, it's
Yeah, when
to me, if we got a mayor who was going to challenge that, I think they'd have a legitimate case. Like, you can't require me to get your advice and consent on things that, you know.
I agree, that's why I have a
don't know.
problem. It's just a-
Maybe not. Attorneys are furrowing their brows or something, maybe not, but
Well, and if I can just interject another thing, Councilmember Jacob reminded me, so he sits on the water board, which goes through an advice and consent with the governor. The way that code works is the names have to be provided by the municipality in November for an advice and consent in the Utah Senate in February. So before Thanksgiving, we submitted 2 names to the governor, and the governor chose one and presented to the Senate during the session in February. And that advice and consent happened, 3 months later.
to be fair though, the term didn't expire until end of February or something like that.
Yeah, the term begins in February. So we can.
You're suggesting not use the
I'm saying that that's an option we can
Some
talk
of them
about.
we have to.
Yeah,
Some
I'm
of
saying
the
some
statutes
legally
don't
we have.
count.
There's ones there are positions in state law that Corbin mentioned, for example, the city recorder, the engineer, the treasurer. Those are statutorily need advice and consent.
Tangi's never leaving, so
Like
that's.
if we're gonna take the full 2 weeks and have a pre-meeting, let's just leave advice and consent.
Okay, yeah, and I'm good with that. I was just saying, if we don't wanna do the 2 weeks, then come on, but if we have to do it, I even would be okay if, and this is just me talking, if it was a rush thing, the week before we have an open Tuesday, we could say, this person's going to be here. You have the option to come and talk and ask questions to them. And always gives us a week. But, or sometime during that week, we get a thing saying, these are the times this person can meet. If you want to meet with them, boom, boom, you schedule your meeting. I don't mind that even. What I did kind of mind was, and they're great people, everyone that's come through is great, but it's like, we're gonna have some dinner with the judge and he's certainly not going, well, I hope I get this job at this time. That's not even anything he's even remotely thinking of. And all we can ask him is, so you excited? We can't be going, how did you vote on da-da-da-da-da? Because or how would you vote on this? Because we're in now eating food around people. It's a very comforting situation. This is not a time for us to be asking hard questions.
Councilmember Budor,
Yes,
can I comment on that?
no, yes, you can, yes, very much
Well, I'm
so.
not gonna be here tomorrow, okay? Advice and consent, I've not here.
Uh-huh.
I've been on advice and consent. And I'm looking at Chief Maxfield, Josh, economic development, advice and consent, they come in here and they 100% know that you could vote no. And it is a stressful situation. And everybody that goes before to be like given that advice and consent, they've got their family there, yeah, but they fully understand, and the kids understand, and everybody in the audience understands that they could walk out of there with nothing in hand if you vote no. It is, they don't feel it's a rubber stamp, and that's the people they're seeing. And I know I'm speaking for these guys right now. You can ask them, but I've been in that boat before, and I just want you to know it's a very nerve-wracking experience to be there, and it feels very different to those appointees than to you, which I think is something to understand as well. Like, they know you can vote no.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't, they know you can though, and they're ready for it. Anyway, I just wanted to, because
I agree though, it's Chief, I'll put you on the spot here. You did it 2 weeks before, you got brought up in a clandestine, back alleyway and brought in and talked to. That already sounds kind of scary in a little way. Would you have felt, you've probably been in some of our meetings where we did meet the person just at the meal right before we voted. Would you have felt that same sort of, I wonder if you were, breaking bread with us a half hour before the vote and all we can do. Just, I'm just being honest. So
Yeah, I mean, because I know that at any time you guys could vote.
Yeah.
And, my hope, being in that position, I mean, even the night that I stood before the council and you had the vote, like every vote I watched, like I didn't know what the votes were gonna be. And so, yeah, I definitely think to what Patrick's saying, it's a little nerve-wracking, and I also, it was a different form of government, and I hadn't been offered the job.
Right.
And so in my mind, I was hopeful, and I felt like, I don't think Mr. Brickey would have offered me the job if things hadn't gone well in that meeting, but I still felt like I'm standing up and waiting to see what the votes are.
No, and I'm sure you were at that. And I'm just gonna say, I'm a person, so with the mayor comes up with people, he decides this is the best person to work with. This is just me talking. I'm gonna trust the mayor on that, especially if that's the person he put in front of me hours before a meeting. I don't wanna make waves within the city. I don't wanna look like we're divided, so I'm going to go with it. That's just me and the way I feel I'm being asked to vote. Again, I trust the mayor. He went through, they vetted everything. I guess probably gonna be okay. But I really haven't had a chance to really look that person in the eye and go, are you the one who I think is there? And then maybe go to the mayor and say, I talked to this person or I found out I know this about this person. I didn't have any of that time. So for me, this is just me talking as one council member and one vote on this. I always looked at these things as, like I said, pomp and circumstance. They're coming to us, great, I'm sure you're a good person. Or the mayor wouldn't have brought you here in front of us. I have 15 minutes to eat some food before I've got to go vote on you. Your family looks great. This is going to be a good photo moment. Let's go get this done. That's the amount of thought after I've read through their application and didn't see, or their resume and saw any red flags. And who puts red flags on their resume? So, you know, that's not a big help to me.
Some people just.
Well, I'm hoping that you're smart enough you didn't pick someone who was dumb enough to put red flags on their resume. That's all I'm saying. I'm okay if this is perfunctory, that it's there. I'm okay with that. But if you want to make it look like I took a real vote on this and this person's, helping this city was in my hands, then I want to be able to meet with them a week before or something. That's all. But you tell me what it means to you as a city, because we are a separated thing between the mayor and the council. Are we actually, a part of it, or are we just here to, as Councilman Whitelock said, rubber stamp it and let's move on and hope that it's good? I'm good either way, but I just want to know which you see it as a city.
Here's how I see it. I think the 2 weeks is okay. Like if you want to say 2 weeks or a day, or if you say a meeting prior to, or they need to meet with the council at a meeting, some meeting prior to the vote, great. I would say a meeting prior rather than a date, because you might have an instance where you have back-to-back council meetings or something like that. I think that's fine. In terms of the issue about perfunctory, rubber stamp, Denise, Chief Wallentyne, Chief Maxfield, myself, Scott, Brian, we all became department heads in the old form of government. Council had a different role and different authority. In this form of government, here's how I see it. I had a city council member in a different city but the same form of government call me and say, our mayor's proposing someone for the CAO. They're not my top pick. I would pick this other person instead. I really don't want to give my advice and consent. What can I do? And my response to them was, if they're qualified, you're giving advice and consent. It's not your pick. You're giving advice and consent. You're double checking that they are qualified, that the mayor's appointment isn't wholly unqualified to do the job and is strictly a political with no merit appointment. But it's not, as a council, your ability to pick who the best person is. In this form of government, if it's a mayoral appointment, the mayor gets to make that decision. So it's a very serious advice and consent, but it's not the same as when you are on the interview panel and you get to pick whether that's the best person or not.
I appreciate that clarification.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
I mean, like if it's the fire chief, you don't want to be the one vote that said no.
And then call 911.
Just saying.
But it's like that example I gave in another city, same form of government, where the mayor picked somebody who was not qualified. The resume showed that individual was not qualified. And the council let the mayor know ahead of time, it's not qualified, we're not gonna give advice and consent.
Cool.
And he had to pick somebody else.
But please take it serious. I have also been in a city and in a situation where the council gave advice and consent to someone that wasn't qualified. And it made for a bumpy go in that position because the council was trying to work things out with the mayor, but they didn't take their advice and consent authority to heart, and they let the mayor appoint someone that was unqualified.
Well, and I would say the opportunities we've had so far, looking at the resume, I have felt very qualified, but then like I said, I also just felt this is really just asking for a kumbaya moment. So I'm cool with that, but I like the idea of meeting with the person, and if that works, what I wouldn't mind, what I'd probably be okay with is if they're saying that this is a rushed, needs to be happening right now, then we have the ability to call an emergency meeting to take care of this. And I don't know how others feel about that. if we get into a situation that, Councilmember Shelton was talking about. That we, could, like I said, hold an emergency meeting, but if we don't think that's a problem, then let's just always make it 2 weeks and we're ready to go. But I just wanted something where.
Would the council be okay if I work with Patrick and Corbin, kind of clean it up a little bit, make it a little more defined, and then bring it back to a committee of the whole for further discussion with you?
We got 4 who are okay to just kick it down a little bit, okay?
Can I ask one more clarifying question on that? Alan, will you advance the slide 1? 2, 1 more. So A, in council rules, says that council members may meet with the appointee together during an arranged appointment or as part of an official council meeting. Would you like this 2-week, this window in council rules specified, I think in this part, like better defined here for council rules and procedures? Is that where you would like it to come in to help kind of dictate how the council handles those meetings?
Instead of the 2 weeks, I think it would be better to go with what Corbin said, a
Just
meeting
flexible.
prior.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we can work on that,
That,
okay,
that covers the thing I was just talking about, so good, that's perfect.
thank you.
Okay. All right, Corbin, Patrick, you guys feel you got everything on that you need?
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Patrick, we're hoping you're still around.
I hope so too.
See you tomorrow, Cassie.
I'll see you.
Good, all right, well, thanks everyone for your time on that. Item 2D is now up, proposed changes to the wildland urban interface map. And speaking of fire departments.
I'm hoping to be here tomorrow as well.
Yes.
So, with that being said, I appreciate your time. I know that this was an enthralling matter. The last time we went through this in December, I believe it was. But as the state readdressed this issue, House Bill 48 was 2025. It was so 2025. It was revamped and redone to be House Bill 41. Essentially, there were some smaller changes made. We can totally talk about that. For changes, it takes the fees, just so you're aware, the fees that were supposed to start January 1, 2026. And I think you said kicked it down, whatever, it passes it off. It puts a year between the anticipated start date to the original, or now the new start date, which is now January 1st of 2027. How this impacts us, it captures a number of different things, which while the state said, hey, you gotta build a map, but we don't know what the map needs to look like. So Chief Maxfield, Chief Pax, and myself worked with GIS, and Evan was, I think, the intern at the time, and Mr. Hutchings were just back and forth with us, and this is what we came up with, because Chief Maxfield and I thought about what is our legit threat on that side of the city. So we built it based on a 500-foot buffer boundary, because the state gave us about this much information on what to work off of. We felt this would capture the needs. As we put it into a map, we tried to figure out where would be the natural breaks. Well, it didn't really naturally break anywhere, so we stayed the course here, knowing that the state would then help us define what those boundaries could look like based on the information that we had. The state has since provided, well, they had this map at the time, but they weren't sure whether on the severity scale where it was going to end up, whether it was going to be this color, that color, or even another color brown. The state has since defined that to a brown, but they've actually provided that information to us, and it's category 5, which is the lesser shade. So what we did is we took out all the other shades of brown, red and orange, and this is what we were able to get from the state. GIS was the ones who chased it down, and then they took this map layer and put it over our west side boundary. So it's us talking to them as who actually made this map work for us. I left the green spaces on just to give you an idea of this green space that is still part of the zone that the state is calling, it's our category 5. It's a smooth structure exposure score. So they've gone through and said,
this is where we think the problem areas will be and move away from it. So 5, 6, 7 on up. So these are the ones that touch our western boundary. Eastern is no issue at all. So our western boundary, we've overlaid these maps and it comes fairly close to our 500-foot buffer except for just right here. And the new law says that they cannot be included in the zone, which was here. So we have to adopt, or our petition would be to adopt the map that now the state has provided and we've overlaid. So that all of these areas won't be in that additional fee zone. So, and those fees that were projected to start in January will now move to 2027.
But it looks like we have a lot more homes that will be in that.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. And based on their ideas, the state's ideas, you could tell the pixelation. If you were to zoom in on this particular subdivision right here, there's like 2 right across the road that have some coloring, but not anything along the side of it. So the idea there is that is the state's map. There's not much we can do about that.
It's always good to have someone hired to blame.
Yes.
What does that mean for the residents? They have to pay extra fees?
Yes, ma'am. And 20,
It's a big deal,
A
big deal.
lot.
yeah, so in 2025, Sycamores. So in 2025, there was an idea to help offset firefighter mitigation money because it costs the state a lot of money, and this is what was proposed and voted on. Essentially, the initial, what'll happen, just to break down what fees are, the initial flat fee was $20 to $100 per house
Per
per year, based on what I know, Chief, unless that's anything different.
I'm not certain on the amount.
Yeah, well, I have, and I think it was per year, I could be wrong.
It's a property tax bill, or where does that, where do they pay that? When do they pay that?
That I'm not 100% sure of, because in the first 2 years, it'll be a flat fee. And then after that, which will give the state time to build the rest of the program, they will have assessors. And those assessors could be your local fire department, but the reality is it'll probably be someone from the state. It's my political face.
I
and-
recognize
Yeah. So the adjustments capture less on one aspect of the map and more on the
That's so
other.
wild with those 2 houses.
Okay. Yeah, so,
It's actually 3.
yeah, there's actually 3. I have readers here, but I was trying to look cool for once.
Like, do they have wooden roofs? Why did they get chosen?
Just where the pixels
It's
landed.
it's the resolution, like, that's, you've gotta get a higher resolution map than this.
Yeah, when it's
We
gonna
can,
affect.
we can
You've gotta get a
petition.
higher resolution map, because that is completely unfair.
That's
So-
a frustration that a lot of us have expressed, is just like you're saying, the pixelation of the map. And
Yeah.
to answer the question about how they came up with that, the state has apparently done studies based on topography, historical fire,
Data.
things like that, and this is the map that they came up with.
Can they do our
But yeah, the
fireworks
pixelation
restrictions?
is one of the things
while
that
they're at it?
has really been kind of a point of contention for us.
And now, and I'm probably soliciting the opportunity to do more work, but I do work for you. So if it was a big to-do, we could petition the state to take those 3 homes off. And then you use that road as the boundary.
That's not a road, it's the.
It's the property
that's
line,
the
excuse
fence,
me,
yeah.
The backyard.
But there would be quite, the state's real finicky about it, and a lot of it is still, as I mentioned in December, a lot of unknowns. So,
This map could change next session.
yes, ma'am. Probably won't, but I think at some point, our due diligence would be to capture this piece, because I looked at my home on the map, which was built last year, and the neighborhood doesn't even exist on the state's map. So my concern there is as if we were to go up towards terrain, that property doesn't look like it does in person, which I understand. I know how that works, it takes some time. But in order to better capture that, I mean, we have a lot of parcels set up there, but there's still quite a bit of growth, even as we start looking towards the back of that subdivision of the west side.
Coming for you. You see that? They're coming for you.
Are there criteria that the state has put into place that says this is what determines what the map is, and then here's the map that is based off of this standard?
Well, they take a number of different things and put it into the program, and then that's how they captured it off the topography, how fire spread rates, you know, what vegetation is there? Is it cheatgrass? Is it junipers? So all of that plays into where they came with the different scores for each color. So as we get up here, it's steeper terrain, and that's gonna increase fire spread.
So as these neighborhoods, so you've got Sycamores, which are built out, but then you've got just south of that, the Copper, or whatever it was that everybody hated, that's not built out. And above that, you've got Ochre West, which is partially built out, and then above that, you got Terrain, which is building out pretty rapidly. As those build out, will that affect where those lines are?
We've asked those questions, and
I think they potentially could. I don't know if they will. I think they could. One other thing that I think the state has considered in their mapping, and I don't know, like you're asking, the exact criteria they use to determine this. But if you'll recall, when we talked about the first map that we created, some of those places you look at and go, well, there's not really wildlife yet, but flying embers are also a part of it. So as it builds out, that may change their formula, but I do believe that along that western edge, there will probably always be some kind of buffer amount that will fit in.
Sure.
but it would, if I'm understanding correctly, it would slow the spread rate, which could impact if it is still category 5.
Right, because I mean, just cast your mind back 30 years ago when none of the streets on this map existed.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that brown line now? Right? And now 30 years later, we've got
Which brown line?
8,000.
As of today, this-
10,000 residents now that are living in what would have been
No, it's
Bowie space. Right?
Yeah.
Bowie.
Bowie.
And now they're not, because now they're just urban, they're not wildland urban. So as that builds out, that's gotta push that line.
So you're absolutely right, and like Chief Trevino said, this map that they created, he's taken away the scores that are 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
But when last year, the state had shown where that was, what was decided this year in legislation was which score is the cutoff point. And I remember looking at it at like a 4 and saying, if it's gonna be a 4,
Yeah, we got it all the way to U-111.
yeah, I can see how that undeveloped area on the west side is a wildland threat. But in 20 years, it's not gonna be. It's all gonna be built out to the edge of it.
Right.
You know, and so I was happy that they settled on the 5.
But then again, maybe it wouldn't have been different though, because look at where Southwest Quadrant is. There's nothing there now, and it's still not.
It's relatively
Yeah.
flat,
Well, it's relatively flat, it's relatively,
Bare.
and it's also
Barren,
farm,
just like grass.
farmland.
it's just grass, yeah. Or whatever it is they farm out there.
So
I think they farm.
we wanted to bring this to you just to have more of a discussion like we've had and hear your comments and feedback. We will get to a place where we will have to move with the law so that Patrick and I are both here tomorrow. We will have to move that direction. But with that being said, I mean, is there comments? Is there more information I could provide? I could talk more to the fees if you really wanted.
I'm only curious, do the residents that are in this zone know? Like, have they been notified that
It- There have
There's a
been,
reason why it's brown.
yeah, yes, there have been like community meetings put on by Forestry, Fire and State Lands, but they They haven't gone out to the communities.
Those people don't.
Believe me, if they'd had one for the Sycamores, we'd know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they gonna find out from their insurance providers?
So what'll happen is the first 2 years of the program, since they've been now pushed, so 27 and 28, they'll receive that flat fee based on square footage, $20 to $100 a year. And then after that, it'll be a risk-based tiered type program where they would capture, like, if a homeowner says, well, I'm gonna pull these trees down that are dead, but I don't wanna pay somebody to do it, but it's a fire hazard, then they will be assessed a higher fee than if somebody that's provided defensible space around their home. But I think to your point and your question, it will change. I'm fairly confident, other than the what we call the ember rain, if you will.
But we can all feel good knowing that insurance companies won't take advantage of this.
Absolutely not.
The question, the dumb question I have, and this goes to what Bob was saying about advice and consent. The state says you will vote on this. Well, if the state says I will vote, then I can vote no. If the state says this is what it is, period, and this is what it is, and there's a map, and here it is, and this is your map, West Jordan, enjoy, then okay, that's our map. If the state says, here, you have a choice, city council, vote yes or no.
Yeah,
They
I
didn't
don't
give us
know.
that luxury.
There is, based on what I've heard, in fact, I was in a meeting this afternoon with the other chiefs and we talked about this very thing. There is an option to petition the state and try to do something differently. We don't know what that process is yet. So
They don't know.
Exactly. So there is an option. I don't know if it's something that if we have a deadline, we have to adopt this. I mean, the state has adopted the map, but we adopt it and then we come back later and say, we're gonna petition and we don't agree that this should be considered wetland. I don't know how that process is gonna play out.
I just, this happened once, way back in the early council days. We had a decision that was already made, staff was already moving forward, and then they came to council and said, here, vote on this. And it's like, no, you know, you're already digging up the land, and now you want me to approve your zoning, and it's like, you got 6 houses on. I mean, you know, if the state's gonna say you have to adopt this map, then state adopt the map. And we'll be your humble, obedient subdivision and say yes. But don't come to me and give me a yes or no vote.
Yeah, as I'm searching right here, and I was aware of what Chief Maxfield mentioned, there's just no real vehicle. There's like, hey, you can go here, but what does that vehicle look like? And what this says under House Bill 41, which I've been over and over again, it just says you can submit a written recommendation. If
We already voted on the map.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
ma'am,
like
well
our
aware. We could submit a written recommendation if we wanted to capture something different. Because based on what the law says now is we have to adopt a new map, but it's not today. I think that based on what I read earlier, it would capture implementation delay. House Bill 41 officially delays the enforcement of new building codes and homeowner fees from January 1st of 26 to January 1st of 27. Local governments now have an extra year to adopt the mandatory code and update their local ordinances.
Let's adopt the mandatory code.
That they already told us to do in December.
Can they do our fireworks restrictions while they're at it? I mean,
No, because they'll let them have them everywhere. We already know this.
I can tell you, if we went to them with a map on that little pixelization, they would just go ahead and they would do the entire row of those.
yeah, they
They
make,
would just continue through. They wouldn't take
can't
those
remember
three
the
homes off.
streets, but they take that.
Chief, if we lift the green off, is the brown underneath where we have some green right along the blue?
Yeah, so this is all brown.
Okay,
My point was that we have green space and it's still labeled
yeah,
where we have green space here.
and it's not, yeah.
So in some of that, we believe has to do with how they built the map.
By someone doing a pen doing this.
Hey, at least they don't have brown going down all our canals now, so.
Yeah, the fireworks
What is
map
that?
will show that.
Yeah.
And especially this year.
Yeah, also with water,
Well, yeah, but the first map you brought to us from them had
Your Nebraska canals was water out here, we have dry washes.
Yes, and it did, so they actually made it better by saying that Vets Park wasn't part of this.
Yeah, they at least, I mean, a little bit,
No,
a little bit of
I
watching
think
was
it's
yours there
it's
with some of it.
definitely fair, but capturing that based on, is the map up to date, is this what they're gonna hold us to, is, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. And again, while we have a destination, we don't necessarily have the perfect vehicle
Chief,
to
if
take
we
there.
pass perfect bills every session, there's no need for the next session.
Yes, ma'am,
Oh, yeah, I like that.
agree. So is it better than the last time we talked? It is. Perfect.
No, the
Probably
last
close.
time we talked, we agreed on your 5 feet thing, so
500 feet.
that was better.
It will impact less, yes, ma'am. So I think we are to talk about this a little more in a council meeting in 2 weeks.
I mean, reality is, if it happens, are these people gonna blame the city or are they gonna blame the state?
Yes. We're gonna be the ones with the public hearings.
Yes.
Yeah, the state will make sure of that.
But we didn't make the map.
Because that's what.
We made the actual good part of the map, we didn't make the bad part of the
What I
map.
want is, what I want to know when it does come back is what happens if we vote no.
So they're still gonna charge whoever's in that area.
Right, so I might as well say, no, I'm opposed to this.
Yeah.
Didn't they,
And let the
didn't we
state
have a
do what
vote
they
on
have
whether
to
or not
do.
we had to expand the water treatment plant and it was basically vote yes, you can't vote no.
Right. So, or, it happens, so that's what I'm saying, is performative rubber stamps, not just advice and consent.
Yeah, and there wasn't much asked of local fire departments either when it came to this. It
Yeah.
was,
You can tell.
Well, I am totally okay with the state imposing a map on parts of, we are a subdivision of the state, impose your map upon us. Don't ask me to give it a yes or a no rubber stamp though. If you're gonna impose your map, impose your map.
Because that is something that our citizens can look up and say, what do you mean it's the state? You voted for it.
It's like signing something under duress.
So are we all gonna vote no?
That would
Bring
be
it to
cool.
us
Let's see
and
what
all
happens.
that?
Let's shake up the system.
See what happens. If they're gonna do it anyway, at least they know that it wasn't us.
Oh man, Tangi stopped taking notes on
that's why I picked up with my paper. So I have my tablet on me, so I'll do some more and bring some more information.
Well, we appreciate the information you've given us.
You gonna tell us if we can vote no or not?
That's, my job description doesn't get into that place. I didn't say, that's up
There's
to
a
you.
pay
Above your pay grade?
Easily.
Easily. And, oh, no, Eric's still there.
Okay.
Yes, I guess it falls to you, so we'll look forward to your answer.
If I-
What
if I-
happens if we all just vote no? What kind
Well,
of situation is
that's
that?
actually what we were
That's
just
what
talking
we're
about.
discussing.
They're like, are they really?
And the answer is,
No one knows.
So you've adopted the Utah Wildland Fire Code.
Yep.
That's already in. You adopted a map that says, where do we want this code to apply? Part of what we're talking about though here is the state saying, here's who we're going to assess a fee to. You don't necessarily get to decide who the state applies their fee to. Your map isn't what they're gonna use. They're recommending that your map just reflect their 5 and above. It doesn't have to, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna be able to exempt people from the state fees. And you've still gotta designate something as WUI.
My concern that I was just talking to Patrick about is
Yeah.
if we adopt something differently, what does that create? Is a resident gonna come and say, well, you've outlined this as the WUI code, but the state's charging me this assessment? It seems like it would be easier for me, though it does create other problems, to have those aligned. And that's where when we adopted the WUI code and we had to come up with a map, but we didn't have any direction about what the state was gonna do, we did the best we could with the 500 feet. Now they've since adopted this, and I think the proposal we're bringing forward now is, can we align those? And so do we In other words, do we adjust our WUI map zone to match this?
Parts of it, parts that we go this way on some and we push back on some. We give and take.
The other thing I was just gonna let you know, so the wildland, the WUI code, the wildland code has conditions for new construction. So for these areas that there's no homes there and stuff, when somebody does go in and build and they're in the WUI zone, they're gonna have fire hardiness building requirements that are gonna go in.
I'm cool with that. Won't be necessarily.
You don't have to pay for it.
They will have to pay for it, it'll be expensive.
Well, and they'll be aware.
Yeah.
They'll be aware that they're building in that area. That's,
They'll probably not be happy about it, they'll run up on the hill to the legislature will roll over for the developers, and then we won't have to worry about this, let's just give it a little time.
exactly.
Glad you said it, not me.
Government great.
But it's so true.
Representative Peterson and Senator Vickers,
Which Peterson?
Thomas W. Peterson.
There's 4, so you gotta.
Yeah, there's only 4.
So we'll be back to talk soon.
All right.
And if you have questions before then, work through it and we'll try to work through Alan, and then we will try to provide whatever information we can glean from the state.
And the plan is to bring the map to you at April 28th meeting, as well as the firework map.
Okay.
That has to be sent to the county by May 1st.
How are other cities feeling about what they are getting imposed on them? Do you know?
Other fire departments are not as appreciative as one would think, just because it becomes a lot more than their like unified fire is going out and having all these meetings with their different communities, and not all of their communities are the same. So you have to be like Mill Creek that is kind of a special circumstance because of how it's throughout that side of the valley, and capturing some person will have to pay while another doesn't, their friend doesn't have to pay, and then there's some headache there. So they go to the local fire department or fire agency and are upset, but the bill came from legislators, not the fire department. So
So okay with the legislature saying these people have to pay for whatever reason, for whatever, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the legislature saying these people have to pay, and city, you have to say that it's okay that we say that they have to pay.
Yeah.
When they don't give us a choice. So if there's a choice, I'm
Should
gonna
we look
choose.
up this now for other cities?
Oh, yes, ma'am, it's just,
Is it
was that,
And
it's-
Bill?
it,
I don't know what this looks like on the east side.
I can get that to, it's just a website, and I can provide that and instructions on how to get there.
That would be great.
I'll get it from him, or you can email it to the council.
I'll email it to you, yeah. Just to capture those ideas and needs, and you'll see,
Not certain people.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we'll provide that. I'll work on that here. We'll be at council tonight, so I have a quick minute to do that.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay. That'll
Appreciate
work.
your time tonight too.
Oh,
Nice
no, at least I
presentation.
can do.
Thank you.
Oh, don't say it's the least you can do.
Well, at least I could do, I mean, most I could do is get rid of them, but that's fine, from what I hear from council.
All right.
Wildfirerisk.utah.gov.
You have that already?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just wanna share that. Real quick, I had an idea, I just wanna see, if anyone has any, thoughts on it, they would like to be a part of this. The, Sugar Factory Playhouse is gonna be doing Footloose, and there is a city council scene in that.
Oh my.
And I talked to them about maybe having,
Actual city council.
do one night, not every night, but just one night that's a special,
Do we get a credit as himself?
maybe. But I'm still, I talked to the director just briefly, and I said, well, before I start saying yes,
They're
let's do it.
warned that the city council is not good people.
I know.
That's bad, guys.
Oh, I know.
But,
Unlike usual.
and I'm not even sure, it's been a while since I've looked at the script about how many actual city council members there are. But if any of you are interested in that, let me know and I'll see, cause I just think it'd be fun one night to just do that
And
as a
wondering
fun.
when I could begin my.
Oh, yeah, so that's a different
Yeah,
one.
there
I
you
just
go.
sent it to Alan.
It's never too late to start.
I'm not interested at all.
I will tell you that our lieutenant governor, I directed her in several plays, and that's what got her. She tells people that I taught her everything she knows about being a politician. And I said, except the lying part. Didn't teach me. No, that was just me joking.
There we go.
She went,
So,
"Oh."
Risk Explorer.
Just an FYI,
Mayor?
I invited Governor Cox and Abby Cox to that play, I don't know what, they haven't responded back yet.
They're gonna come and we're gonna perform. They
And
should
then
So
we'll
I
do
was gonna say,
Yeah.
if you know which night you're going to be there, I could. encourage you
I'll check more with it and then I'll put out something to the council, just let you know what's,
So the
I
ones
just
that
think it'd
we're
be kind of
What a
a
great
concerned
idea.
about
a little
is
fun
that
thing,
smooth
to do.
structure
And I have
exposure.
council
Are
back.
you
And
one
get
bad
rid of the
people?
movie, the high risk
They just
movie
had an
properties.
interesting idea
Because
about
what it'll do is
dancing.
just give you a different shade of.
And
Are we
speaking of
literally
which,
voting on public
tonight-
dancing tonight?
Tonight is
That's
Footloose
when you
night,
make that
so
vote, yeah.
I'm gonna go do some angry dancing in the hallway during our break. And I'm gonna call a meeting adjourning now.
So we're just